there is one guy in Philadelphia that I would entrust in picking out a goalie for the Philadelphia Flyers, it's the guy that, well, his name is Ron Hextall. And the Flyers haven't had a goalie since him. I really butchered that lead, by the way. Cale Weiler's here. I'm Adrian Fentu. I didn't really know what I was saying, but I think you get the point.
I do. I got your point there. We have not had a single solid goalie since Ron Hextall. You know, Conn Smythe winner, Vezina winner, caliber goalie like Ron Hextall was. So, unfortunately, you know, we're still working on getting there, but we have a lot of great young talent in the pipeline. So, I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Now, free agency officially begins tomorrow at midnight, actually a couple hours from now, but it seems like the Flyers have already finished free agency. So it sounds like they're going to sign Brian Elliott. They've already re-signed Jordan Wheel, and they're not going to do anything else, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really get any more simple than that. They definitely needed a goalie to replace Steve Mason, and I actually absolutely love the Brian Elliott signing based off of what the rumors are for the term and the average that he's going to command. And the Jordan Wheel signing was great as well. The Flyers have a glutton of young talent who are ready to break into the NHL, so there's really no need to go out there and sign, you know, a top 4 defenseman or a top 6 forward that's going to block one of the young guys coming up. So I like where Ron Hextall's head is at right now.
Yeah, the quote he had today is he doesn't want to box out the young players from coming up. So I love hearing that in the press conference today, and you know, it's great, man. We're getting there. You know, the young players are going to come up and see what they can do. So we'll get back to that topic, but I did want to start with Brian Elliott. So this is the guy you want to bring in for about 2 to 3 years before you get the young guys up there, and we'll have you talk about those young pups in a second. But Brian Elliott, 32 years old. Talk about the signing.
Yeah, I really like the signing. Brian Elliott played for Calgary in the full season last year. He didn't have great numbers. I believe he put up a .910 save percentage and a 2.55 goals against average. So not the best numbers in the world, but better than Steve Mason's numbers last year on an arguably similar defense. So with a better defense in front of him, hopefully he'll play a little bit better. He did have a career year the year before that playing for the Blues where he had a .930 save percentage and a 2.07 goals against average, which is absolutely phenomenal. Career stats-wise, very similar to Steve Mason, but he's going to command a lot less term and a lot less money, especially with the young guys coming up, like you said. There's really no reason to sign a goalie for any longer than that. Him and Neuwirth will continue to tandem 1A, 1B. We might see Stolarz a little bit, but he did get injured last year when the Phantoms were in the playoffs, so he'll be out until probably October, November before we see him play again.
Yeah, something I want to bring up about Brian Elliott, because he was fantastic in St. Louis. In those 5 seasons with the Blues, there are only 2 goaltenders with lower save percentages than Elliott, Tuukka Rask and Carey Price. That's it. But then last year in Calgary, really, really struggled. I mean, you talked about the save percentage. It was 35th out of 47 qualified goalies. And in the 3 seasons prior in St. Louis, 13 out of 46 out of qualified goalies. So the numbers went down. But obviously the Blues, they have a great defense there. So what does that say about his play? Was it more the defense? Was it him? What happened last year? It's kind of like a multi-part question.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say that it has a decent amount of going from a team that's a Stanley Cup contender in the St. Louis Blues to a team that's a bubble playoff team like we saw last year in the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames have a great top 4 headlined by players like Brody and Giordano, but they're more offensively minded defensemen. So you can definitely see where Calgary might have a little bit of defensive shortcomings, and obviously the Flyers aren't much better. I mean, you have Ivan Provorov, who's a stud on defense, and Radko Gudas, who are definitely defensive defensemen in a way. But other than that, you have Gostisbehere, who's an offensive-minded defenseman, and then 2 rookies who are going to be coming up. So our defense isn't going to be much better, but you can definitely contribute it to, playing on a team like St. Louis, who is definitely great offensively. So if they're playing with the puck away from him, I think he definitely does a lot better in that situation. He also tandemed with Jake Allen, who also had great numbers with St. Louis. So it's probably a mixture of scheme and a mixture of skill. He was also getting a little bit older. He's 32, which is a couple years older than Steve Mason. But at the same time, goalies definitely do mature a little bit slower than defensemen and offensemen. So at 32, he's definitely not out of his prime, maybe coming closer towards the end of it. But at the same time, I think he's definitely going to be serviceable for the 2-year term that's rumored for the Flyers deal.
Well, his age is why he couldn't get a long-term deal, and why a 2 to 3 year deal with us is perfect. But all right, so Jake Allen, you brought up Jake Allen. The Blues, that's what happened with them. They picked Jake Allen over Elliott. They sent Elliott to Calgary for a second-round pick. And then obviously last year didn't have so great of a season. So which Elliott are we going to see? The one from Calgary or the one from St. Louis, or maybe in the middle?
I would love to see someone in the middle. I mean, he's definitely not going to be leaned on like he was in Calgary. I think he had a lot of expectations going in there to be their number one starting goaltender. And he obviously has the skill when he's putting up, .930 save percentages and just a shade over two goals against per game. So he obviously has the skill there. Depending on how well our rookies play and how much our offensive game can evolve to keep the puck away from him, we could definitely get someone in the middle. I mean, if he had a 920 save percentage and a 220 goals against average, I mean, the Flyers are shoo-in for a playoff spot if he can play that well this year.
Yeah, and the reason why he's a stopgap goalie here for 2 years, obviously so many goalie prospects in the system, Anthony Stolarz, Alex Lyon, Carter Hart, you can go on and on and on. But the question for you is, which one's going to be the best, and how ready are they? How far is it going to take for them to come up?
Yeah,
how long?
If I had to guess right now, our best prospect is definitely Carter Hart. I mean, he almost won the goalie of the year in his respective league in back-to-back years. He should have won this year, but for some reason they voted against him. But he was in the top 3. He was nominated. So he's definitely the goalie of the future. He is only 18 right now. He'll be 19 going into next season, I believe. So we're still probably about 4 years away from seeing him. We'll play in juniors again this year. He'll probably get 2 years in the AHL, and then we'll see him come up after that, which is actually after Elliott's deal ends. So there's a possibility that we might see Carter Hart backing up at the end of that term if they can deal Neuwirth, or vice versa. Maybe Neuwirth is still here and Carter Hart is backing him up before they throw him into the fold there. Anthony Stolarz, but he has had below average numbers in the AHL with his save percentage and everything like that. So he didn't have great numbers. He had great numbers when he was with the Flyers in the 7 games that he played here. But he definitely needs a little bit more seasoning. And then behind them to go within the top 3, I'd probably put Felix Sandstrom in there. He's a great young goalie, and I'm really excited to see how he develops as well.
Yeah. I wanted to get back to the quote of Ron Hextall from the press conference today about not wanting to box out the young players. And, it really is exciting to hear. Whenever, we all get excited when we see the young players come up. We're so eager to see what they can do and to see if they can flourish. But we're going to be seeing a bunch of these young pups. And that's something we're not really used to here in Philadelphia. Developing players.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, when Paul Holmgren was general manager, was picking up players in free agency who are a little bit over the hill, who really don't fit in with the scheme that we have going on here. So the fact that Ron Hextall actually took the time to develop these players, and I believe Oscar Lindblom was like a 5th-round pick or something like that. So to see somebody turned out so great, our scouting department definitely has a lot to do with that. But there's a chance to see like 4 or 5 really good rookies come up for the Flyers next year, which is awesome. So that's a great reason why Ron Hextall is not going into free agency looking to sign too many people. In addition to that, it also helps keep our cap down low. We still have about $10 million left to go to sign Elliott as well as anybody else that we would be looking to sign. But bringing in players on entry-level contracts is always going to be less than $1 million towards your cap hit. So it's great to see that with the Flyers.
Yeah, I heard a rumor about Justin Williams, but now that Wheel is signed, is that why this Williams rumor seems to be dissipated?
Yeah, I would assume so. He probably would have fit in nicely in our top 6 moving forward. But at the same time, that's more of a win-now move. And not saying that the Flyers don't have a chance to potentially make some noise. I mean, you saw the Predators get in as a 16 seed and make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's it's obviously possible. Once you can get into the playoffs, you can do anything if you get hot. So it'd be great to have a veteran presence like that who has played a lot of Stanley Cup games, is 7-1 in Game 7s in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I would have liked to see him on the team, but like you said, with the Wheel signing, it kind of voids that out where there's really not a spot for him anymore unless you can move a player like Matt Reed, Michael Raffl, or Filppula before the season starts.
Yeah. All right, another thing to talk about. Ron Hextall is Houdini. It was a difficult task for him to come here and unload all the contracts that he did, a lot of bad contracts. But he's done a stupendous job, and this is where I let you do your thing and talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ron Hextall has actually given the Flyers some cap breathing space. So he's gotten rid of players like Luke Shen and Vinny Lecavalier, who is, at the end of this year, he's bought out players like RJ Umberger. And to go into that, too, the Blue Jackets actually just bought out Scott Hartnell. So while we only have 1 year left of Umberger's cap hit from his buyout, the Blue Jackets are now going to have 4 years of that buyout cap hit from Scott Hartnell. So while it hurt at the time, looking forward, where Ron Hextall saw that, well, eventually all these young guys are going to come up and eventually they're going to need to get paid. Now we don't have that cap hit from Scott Hartnell hanging over our heads either. And in addition to that, he got rid of players like Grossman, and he's signing players to great deals. I mean, look at what he signed Shane Gostisbehere to, I believe, about $4.5 million for the next 6 years, which is a phenomenal contract. So Ron Hextall is definitely paving the way for the Flyers to be able to be extremely competitive moving forward. The last thing he needs to do is just dump Andrew McDonald somewhere. So hopefully that happens at some point. But if not, it doesn't kill the Flyers. I would definitely expect him to be bought out in the last year of his contract if they can't trade him, though.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing what he's been able to do already. And, it's nice to have some foresight, not go year to year the way it used to be, having a plan, having the foresight and knowing what the future can be and what's in store. All right, Nolan Patrick. I want to talk about him really quickly, too, before we get out. So we found out information today about he had hernia surgery 10 days before the NHL draft. But it sounds like, just like Jordan Hicks with the Eagles, I mean, he's going to miss a couple weeks, but he's going to be ready for training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. People are freaking out about the fact that he's not going to be in development camp, which is a weekend's worth of hockey drills and 3-on-3s and just getting a chance for the young guys to come in. So it's definitely not a big deal like people are making it out to be. Oh, he's injury prone. Oh, he's going to be a bust because he's never going to play. They obviously drafted him knowing that he had this surgery done before the draft, because clearly he did. So he's going to be healthy in time for the actual training camp, which is important. Dave Haxtell was talking about how he looks like he's NHL ready and that he's excited to have him in training camp. It seems like all signs are pointing to Patrick actually making the team this year, which is awesome. So it's definitely not anything to worry about. I would have loved it because Adele and I are probably going to head down to development camp and check it out next Sunday. So it would have been great to see him there, but at the same time, there are so many young guys in the Flyers organization that development camp is going to be great with or without Nolan Patrick.
Yeah. All right. That's all I got on the list. You got anything else you want to talk about? Unless you want to talk about Jordan Will a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, the Jordan Will signing was actually a great one because he has the chance to be this year's Jonathan Marchessault. You saw him score 30 goals last year on a $650,000 contract, which is nothing. Obviously, Will is making a little bit over that, almost more than double. But he had a really good season last year in the limited time that we saw him. He scored 8 goals and 4 assists for 12 points in 23 games, which was really good. If you prorate that out to a full season, he actually scores 28 goals, which is second behind Wayne Simmons. So if we can get that kind of production from Jordan Will next year, one, he replaces Braden Shen, mostly at even strength, which is awesome. And then he's only making $1.75 million for that type of production. So this is definitely boom or bust. If he doesn't play well, you bury him on the fourth liner in the AHL. If he does, you just signed a 28-goal scorer for $1.75 million per year. So I absolutely love the move. So this is great foresight by Ron Hextall, like you had said.
Yeah. All right. We'll pretty much end it on that note. I guess we can do final thoughts right now. So basically our free agency preview and recap show all in one.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't foresee any type of need for a recap show. We can definitely go back and talk about what the final Flyers roster is going to look like. But at the same time, I don't foresee many changes other than what we talked about today. For final thoughts, I'm just really excited for what the product that the Flyers are going to put on the ice this year. Pierre McGuire at the draft, and I know we talked about this on our last show, said that the Flyers are going to be a beast, and they're definitely going to be a playoff team, and they're going to be hard to play against. And hearing a national broadcaster, even Pierre McGuire, say something like that definitely gets you excited for the season. So I'm ready for October to come around because it's going to be fun this year.
Yeah, and if Brian Elliott shows anything that's remotely close to what he did in St. Louis, watch out. So,
yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah. All right, get flyered up, baby. Well, I'm in Wildwood, so I'll be doing that, but I'll be getting flyered up pretty soon. We're getting there, right?
You just got to put a Flyers flag outside your house in Wildwoods. Then it's all good.
Yeah, I don't have a big fat head. I didn't bring it down. Couldn't put it in the car. But yeah, with that being said, we are done. The show is over. That is Caleb Weiler. I am Adrian Fedhue. Thank you for tuning in. And finally, I can enjoy my vacation.